as we know, Xbox came out with their business update and they announced those 4 games coming over to PlayStation. And the thing that they did stress was that these are 4 games. And I know there's some people that are burying their heads in the sand here and like, oh, it's only those 4 games. It's not only those 4 games. Phil Spencer was explicit when he said, kept the door open. 4 games. They're trying out those 4 games, and then they're going to continue to look at what that means, and potentially more games are going to be coming over. That was the most obvious thing that came out of that entire business update, in my opinion. So 4 games. One of those games that they are testing out is Sea of Thieves and Rare, and their game coming over to PlayStation 5. And it is doing very, very well right now on PlayStation 5 as it is currently. Now, this is 16 hours ago, this article. I don't know if it's been updated since then, but it is currently, from what I understand, the #1 most pre-ordered game on PlayStation. So, I mean, we'll read through this, or what we need to know. Basically, it says here that last month, Microsoft confirmed widespread rumors that it would start bringing more of its exclusives Xbox games to PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch in a quest for a bigger profit margin growth. The first batch includes Grounded, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush, and Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves is by far the biggest of the bunch, and the service game arguably has the most potential. It seems that the potential is already being realized since the game has hit the top spot on the pre-order chart. Benji sales here on X. I click the tweet. Let's see here. Benji sales here on X shows this, and it is a picture of the pre-orders. And I mean, you have Sea of Thieves here ahead of MLB The Show, which is a first-party PlayStation game. There's a premium edition and the regular edition are both in the top pre-order games. It's even ahead of Rise of the Ronin, which you would think, I mean, everyone on PlayStation, it's a huge game. There are a lot of people that are going to want to play that. Ahead of the Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree, a DLC. It's ahead of Dragon's Dogma 2, which is looking and shaping up to probably be a Game of the Year candidate. So pretty insane. The Sea of Thieves here is a top pre-order game on the PlayStation 5. And I think what this is telling and signaling is that we are going to be seeing more of these games coming over to other consoles. If this game sells and does, I mean, they already had 30 or 35 million players in Sea of Thieves just on Xbox and PC. They're going to add in a couple, probably more million here on PlayStation 5. It's a big thing. And I think Xbox is going to be looking at, like, what does this mean for multiplayer and games as a service games? I think the games that they put on to Xbox or to PlayStation and the Nintendo Switch were very strategic in the sense that games that were different in their style, different in genres, multiplayer versus single player. You have Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment. You have Sea of Thieves and Grounded. Games that completely probably different budgets in terms of development. And they take those and they look at the ROI of them. They put them on the other platforms and they see which ones perform, and is it worth putting single player games on PlayStation and Nintendo? Are they going to make enough money back off of that to at least off of like the one-time one and done purchases versus a games as a service and the continuous money? And now the Sea of Thieves is a top on the pre-orders. I feel like it's going to be something that they continuously look at going forward. And yeah, I think we'll see the numbers at the end of it, but maybe this will be them saying, hey, maybe we're going to bring more over in the future. Who knows? I mean, but Sea of Thieves is doing very well. Now, when it comes to Rare, before I continue, Pomoro, appreciate you joining Plume Pass again. $1 joining membership just to support the channel, and you get Craig and some other pictures. Then get Phil Spencer laughing and stuff. So appreciate that, Pomoro, joining Plume Pass here on the channel. All right. So Sea of Thieves is going over, and it's a Rare game, and we know Rare is a pretty beloved developer from back for a long time now. And they actually talked about their experience with developing Sea of Thieves for the PlayStation 5. I'm not gonna subscribe to you, Guardian. You have a lot of weird articles on here. Anyways, PlayStation ahoy! How Rare's pirate adventure Sea of Thieves sets sail for a new platform. So they actually talk with the development team and we get some good information as to kind of what they think about the game going to PS5 and the process of developing it for the PlayStation 5. So we'll start here. It says here, 6 years since its voyage began, the Oceanic co-op is landing on PS5, and the team behind the game can't wait to empower the creativity of a whole new community of players. One evening many months ago, Mike Chapman, the creative director of the co-op pirate adventure game Sea of Thieves, sat down to play the game with producer Joe Neate. This wasn't a standard playtest. Joining them online would be a crew of players they'd never taken to the ocean with before. It was a team from Sony Interactive Entertainment. So many months ago, Rare, Sea of Thieves, they were literally sitting down and hanging out with people from Sony Interactive Entertainment, which is kind of funny to think about, right? Because it's like we do have the console wars. We do have PlayStation fanboys versus Xbox fanboys. But the reality is these companies, they're friends. Like they're hanging out, they're playing games. They don't care that a group of people work for PlayStation, Sony. They don't care that a group of people work for Rare and Xbox. Their friends are hanging out playing games. Yet as customers and fans, there is just constant like fighting between them when the actual employees of these companies could not care less whether somebody plays their game on PlayStation versus somebody playing their game on Xbox. And I'm not saying like, oh, there shouldn't be console wars. I mean, their console wars are entertaining. Don't get me wrong. There are some really great creators out there. It's hilarious and funny, but like these companies do not care. They truly do not care about any of that stuff. Okay. So yeah, it is not like the 90s. It is absolutely not like the 90s. It's not even the same. It's not even close. And one of the major reasons why it's not like the 90s and Sega versus Nintendo is because, again, these consoles are not the same. I mean, sorry, these consoles are the same. So it's like you're touting like, this is my plastic box with a logo on it versus this is my plastic box with a logo on it with actually essentially the exact same under the hood. The 90s was like you had Sega, Nintendo, different development, different architectures, all that stuff, like different sounds. Like if you had a game that was released on the Genesis versus the Super Nintendo, some games look better on one or the other. Some games sounded better on one or the other. They were like different versions of the games. Here it's the exact, now we're in an era where it's just the exact same game across the board. Sour Blow 18 with the 16 months. And this is a good reminder, guys, to please go over here. You like some good conversations, you like some good Xbox and gaming talk, to go subscribe to the Xbox International podcast. I am on there as many times as I can get on there. But yeah, go subscribe there Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. I just put the link in the chats. Go subscribe to the XBI podcast. Great podcast, and a show coming up this Wednesday. So it'll be a fun time. But I appreciate that, Sour, with these 16 months Plume Pass. All right, so they continue here. They say the plan is to bring the Xbox exclusive to the PlayStation 5. Had just been hatched. They're playing. The plan comes out. They're playing with each other. They're having a good time. It says now it was time to get into the details. It says here, we were educating them about the game, talking through what was special about it. It says Neat. It was so surreal, trying to find treasure on an island with a group from a different platform holder. So PS5, wow, the pre-orders are already super high, but it's not launching until April 30th. Pre-orders are now open. But it says it's the latest stage in the evolution of this fascinating game, launched on the 20th of March 2018. It was the most ambitious project in the long history of the veteran British studio Rare. Built as a cooperative private adventure, Sea of Thieves gave players access to a vast multiplayer world of oceanic exploration, buried treasure, and ship-to-ship battles. The design philosophy behind the game was simple, yet extremely risky. Tools, not rules. Players would be given everything they needed to set out on their own private adventure, even musical instruments and gallons of virtual grog, but there would be no overarching narrative, no skill trees, no complex character progression systems. The story would come from the players themselves as they built their crews and fought other buccaneers for fame and fortune, which is a good point because it's like 30 plus million people have played this game, love this game. It is an extremely huge success here from Rare, and it just really shows you that we have a lot of games here that are very complex with the trees, skill trees, the combat that has like all these different ways you can do combat and upgrading your character. There's so many different things that, like, I think this is one of those games that just really proves that people just want to get lost in a world and just be a character, get lost, have some fun gameplay, and not think about all this complex stuff that they have to do. Silent with the membership for 10 months. Again, guys, go subscribe to the Xbox International Podcast. A great panel member over there. I appreciate that, Silent, for the 10-month membership. So, continues here. Says, after a shaky launch hampered by technical glitches, I remember I actually pre-ordered the game, had the physical Xbox version of Sea of Thieves at launch, and then they launched it into Game Pass, and I got rid of that. But the Sea of Thieves found its audience and thrive. Since that day in 2018, there have been around 100 updates and expansions, including adventures based on Pirates of the Caribbean, Monkey Island. New mechanics such as commodities, captaincies have added fresh depth to the experience, but Chapman believes that the longevity of the game has come down to carefully ensuring player agency and supporting roleplay, saying we empower players with really simple tools that they can bring their own creativity in. And they says we've tried our best to stay true to that. So now, when it comes to the community, it says the community has been vital. It says, I think that's part of the hidden work of making a shared world. He says, if you add a mechanic into the game, the mechanic itself can be really simple, but it has to respect the fact that it's going into a shared world. It's a bunch of motivations coming together in a shared space. And the mechanic will be used in different ways depending on if a player is traditionally a PvP or a PvE player. So whenever we build any mechanic, we put a lot of thought into how it integrates into the world and how we could potentially create new metas that will lead to it thriving over many months and years, but also how we can design against metas emerging that we don't want. It's almost tapping into the player psychology of how they could use a mechanic for good or bad and trying to design something that leads to, in the majority of cases, the stories that we want to see more and more. That's where our design team is focused. So they're very focused on making sure that people can just kind of utilize their tools and have some cool experiences and obviously choose whether they're going to be good or bad players in the game itself. Which is, I mean, I have never really gone that deep into Sea of Thieves. I did play it a launch, but I never really jumped back into it. I don't know why, but I could totally see from when I first jumped in at the start, the kind of vision of this being just a massively open sandbox where you kind of get to do whatever you want, and there isn't anything bogging you down from trying to level up or do any of that type of stuff. You don't have to be a certain level to go on and take on different enemies. So that part was pretty cool. All right. Okay. So now they're talking about bringing it over to PlayStation. The question is, so what was it like to face the prospect of opening the game to a whole new community? It says here, at a leadership level, when we first heard about this as a possibility, it was excitement first. Then, okay, how are we going to do this? It says Neat. The fact we already gone to a different platform with Steam helped us to face not only the technical challenge, but also how to start engaging with a different community in different places and build that reputation. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to Sea of Thieves, it's like, I'm sure most people, like a lot of people on PlayStation knew about this game. It reached over 30 million players. It was already on PC. So I don't think that challenge was that huge. It's rare. Like, people know about Sea of Thieves. It says here, this is the first time in Rare's 40-year history that we're developing on a Sony platform, which is pretty crazy because it was like Nintendo for forever, and then I guess Xbox bought them, so it was Xbox. It was the first time they're developing on a Sony platform, which I didn't even realize that. Says it was quite surreal for us getting on a call and being presented with a set of slides about a platform that we never thought we would get an opportunity to go ship on. But honestly, for our tech team, it was like, let's just get kits in and start experimenting and figuring this out. We had them hidden away in a secret part of the studio with frosted windows, and no one could peek in. It was excitement as much as anything else. So they hid these PlayStation 5 dev kits away from everybody, and obviously only a certain amount of people who are creating the game for PlayStation 5 were able to see what was going on, which is funny because I mean, sure, that's like one way leaks get out. That's one way. I mean, leaks already did get out. I feel like that's probably one of the things that got this game out there into knowing about it before it actually was announced, was people saw these PS5 dev kits coming in. And it always comes back to the question when I think about the dev kits. People are like, well, why? So now Xbox knows everything, all the secret sauce about PlayStation. But like I've said like multiple times on the stream, it's like these consoles are essentially the exact same. There's really no secret sauce I think PlayStation is really hiding. We know what Xbox already knows the SSD speeds. They know the SoC. They know everything about it. It's exactly the same essentially as Xbox, with the Series X being slightly more powerful than the PlayStation 5. No real secret sauce. Maybe some of the tools, but Xbox has better tools than the PS5 that have not been utilized, like all the AMD stuff. So it's like there's no like intellectual property here that PlayStation is probably that worried about that Xbox doesn't already know about by giving them the dev kits for the actual PS5. So it continues here and says, according to Neat, Rare is working with co-developers who have PlayStation experience, and Sony itself has been extremely helpful. Sony has actually been helpful to Xbox and to Rare, holding regular catch-up calls and making its own tech staff available whenever needed. Even when the project was still top secret, says if we went and visited their studios, we had to do it not wearing Sea of Thieves t-shirts, and I'm sure you can imagine. Doesn't it? One huge benefit of preparing to welcome a new community is that it has given the team an excuse to stop and think about the game's structure. Season 11 of the game, which launched in January, was developed with the knowledge that PS5 players would be joining soon. So the onboarding system has been revised and now offers a much more cognate pirate journey, with content unlocking at a more manageable pace and a quest board showing where to find new stuff that was once hidden in artifacts on map icons. Is he saying that they made it easier for PlayStation gamers? Am I understanding this? Am I understanding he made the game easier here? Continues here and says Rare is also planning to introduce an offline solo mode with the March update. If anyone is interested in that. You won't need Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus. If you just want to come in and play on your own, you'll get to play safer seas as a solo player, so you can experience all the Tall Tales content and all the progression through the companies. It's another way to fall in love with the game before thinking maybe I want to go get that subscription and start playing multiplayer. Continues here and says Rare is keen to point out, however, that while its recent work has been focused on making a more approachable, intuitive experience, so definitely saying he's made it easier for PlayStation players. With one eye on incoming PS5 community, there are more ambitious plans afoot. Ending off here saying what we've done throughout last year is really expand the boundaries of what Sea of Thieves experience is. You can own your own ship. You can be part of a pirate guild. You've got the quest table. You've got revised tutorials. You can, and he just talks about the game. Talks about the game. Basically. So yeah, this was the interview with The Guardian. And this was an interview with the Sea of Thieves people, with Rare. And I guess the conclusion out of this thing is they are excited and happy that this game is on PS5. That's just the reality of it. And I'm not surprised, because if you think about it, right? If you are a developer and you go to any developer, first party, third party, second party, whatever, the majority of those developers will want as many people to experience their games as possible. So you're going to Rare, you're like, hey, 30 million plus people have played Sea of Thieves on Xbox and PC. Hey, there's a potential of 10 million more people playing this game. Do you want to reach those 10 million players? Absolutely, they're going to be excited and say yes. It's a new project, it's a new challenge. They're going to want to do it. And they stayed here. They were literally happy. They were playing with the Sony Interactive employees. Sony has been very helpful with them. This whole console war thing is honestly non-existent in between the companies itself.